8:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news, edited by Danushka Madhwala and read by Indrani Senanayaka. The headlines. Ramadan fasting in Sri Lanka will commence tomorrow. The President facilitates open dialogue with opposition on IMF proposals. The Prime Minister has officially awarded the 5 smart schoolrooms donated by Korea to 5 schools today. The State Minister of Finance denied the allegations made by some parties saying that the country has imported vegetables worth 19,850 million rupees. The Ministry of Finance has granted approval to deploy 4,500 multitask development officers to aid elephant fence conservation efforts. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says the first ever service minute will be introduced for the Sri Lanka Transport Board. Heat index expected at caution level. In foreign news, Hungary PM Orbán says Trump will not give a penny to Ukraine. Colombo Grand Mosque announces that Muslims in Sri Lanka will begin the month of Ramadan fasting from dawn tomorrow as a new crescent moon has been sighted. Muslims all over the world will observe a month of fasting and prayers during Ramadan to commemorate the time when the Quran was revealed to Prophet Muhammad. Fasting during Ramadan, the 9th month of the Islamic lunar calendar, is considered to be one of the 5 pillars of Islam. In a proactive move towards transparency and collaboration, President Ranil Wickremesinghe convened a crucial party leaders' meeting at the Presidential Secretariat today to deliberate on the IMF proposals. The meeting saw the active participation of various stakeholders, including TNA parliamentarian M.A. Sumanthiran, underscoring the government's commitment to inclusive decision-making. During the discussions, Secretary to the Treasury, Mahinda Sirivardhana, provided insights into the ongoing negotiations with bilateral creditors, commercial creditors and ISBs, with an optimistic outlook towards completing the process by the end of June this year. Notably, Sumanthiran raised pertinent concerns regarding the lack of published technical assistance reports of the IMF, which is an analysis as to why certain recommendations are made, which is a necessity for the publication of analytical data to inform parliamentary deliberations. President Wickremesinghe, acknowledging the importance of transparency, assured that the government would release the data to the TNA and Parliament, facilitating informed debate and decision-making. Furthermore, the central bank governor highlighted the government's efforts in adhering to the recommendations outlined in the governor's diagnostic report, emphasizing the commitment to a structural roadmap for implementation. President Wickremesinghe affirmed the government's willingness to make these technical assistance reports available to the members of Parliament and invited Sumanthiran and other opposition members to attend a meeting and engage with the IMF to further discuss the proposals. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena officially awarded the 5 smart classrooms fully equipped with computers donated by the Seymour Foundation of Korea to 5 schools in the Sabaragamuwa province and the Central Province at a function held at Temple Trees today. The Seymour Foundation, under its digital program, has donated computers and equipment worth 36.5 million rupees for the smart classrooms to 5 schools. In his speech, the Prime Minister commented that the government is grateful for the support given by the Korean government and the donor institutions to quickly provide smart classrooms to children in the country. Korean Ambassador Mayon Lee thanked the generous contributions provided by the Seymour Foundation to schools in Sabaragamuwa and asked to take steps to expand it throughout the island. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
At People's Bank, we empower your pride. People's Bank, pride of the nation.
We continue with local news. State Minister of Finance Ranjit Singh Balapitiya denied the allegations made by some parties, saying that the country has imported vegetables worth 19,850 million rupees. The State Minister said that a professor has made that statement referring to a central bank report. Many media outlets have shared the news referring to the professor's statement. The State Minister said that Sri Lanka has only imported vegetables in the month of January to the value of 10,500 million rupees. The central bank report clearly stated that the amount was used for the purchase of dal and big onions as well. Apart from that, some vegetable varieties have been imported for the use of foreigners, and those varieties are not grown in Sri Lanka. The State Minister emphasized the country's tourism sector has shown a significant increase during the month of January. Minister of Wildlife and Forest Resources Conservation and Irrigation, Pavitra Devi Wanyarat, revealed that the Ministry of Finance has granted approval to deploy 4,500 multitask development officers to aid elephant fence conservation efforts within the Ministry of Wildlife. The Minister also stated that the demarcation of forest boundaries, which is part of the project aimed at increasing the country's forest coverage to 32% of the total land area, is anticipated to be finalized this year. She made these remarks during her participation in a news conference held at the Presidential Media Centre today, focusing on the theme Collective Path to a Stable Country. The Minister further commented that the International Day of Forests falls on the 21st of March. That ends the local segment of news.
You have got a transfer.
That's all right, sir. They are all our children.
The right decisions with noble intentions bring pride. At People's Bank, we empower your pride.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says that a service minute will be introduced to the Sri Lanka Transport Board for the first time after 66 years. He made these remarks recently at the Navalapitiya depot of the Sri Lanka Transport Board. The employee said that the number of buses to be deployed for long-distance services and transportation of school children is insufficient. Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that since the Sri Lanka Transport Board made a profit last year, it is possible to buy about 70 new buses in the future. 3 new buses for long-distance services and 3 engines for the school buses will be provided. Also, for the first time after 66 years, a service minute will be introduced for the SLTB. He also said consequently the era in which the previous officials were kicked out when governments changed will come to an end. The minister further said that he hopes to resolve the prevailing issues within a month and find a solution for the shortage of employees, adding that a health insurance system for the employees will be introduced.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
We now take a look at Watchlight. The Met Department warned that the heat index, the temperature felt on the human body, is expected to increase up to caution level at some places in the western, northwestern, southern and Sabragama provinces and in the Anuradhapura, Mannar, Trincomalee and Batticaloa districts. Effect of the heat index on the human body is prepared on the advice of the Ministry of Health and Indigenous Medical Services. Accordingly, people working in affected areas should stay hydrated and should take breaks in the shade as often as possible. Also, constant check should be made on the elderly and the sick. Children should never be left unattended and should limit strenuous outdoor activities, find shade and stay hydrated. The department also instructed them to wear lightweight and white or light-colored clothing.
Coming up, World News.
First, the headlines. Hungary PM Orban says Trump will not give a penny to Ukraine. Al-Qaeda's Yemen branch announces death of its leader. 50 hurt as New Zealand-bound flight hit by technical issue. Donald Trump will not fund Ukraine's fight against Russia's invasion if he's elected US President again, Hungarian PM Viktor Orban has said. He will not give a penny in the Ukraine-Russian war. That is why the war will end, the Conservative Premier said after meeting Mr. Trump in Florida. The former US President has pledged to end the war within 24 hours if elected, but provided no details. Mr. Orban told Hungary's M1 TV channel yesterday, "It is obvious that Ukraine cannot stand on its own feet. If the Americans don't give money and weapons along with the Europeans, then the war is over. And if the Americans don't give money, the Europeans alone are unable to finance this war, and then the war is over." He added that Mr. Trump has pretty detailed plans on how to end the Russian-Ukraine war, but did not elaborate. Al-Qaeda's Yemen branch has announced the death of its leader, although the circumstances remain unclear. A video published by Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula showed Khalid Batafi's body wrapped in a funeral shroud and the group's banner. A statement read by a senior figure did not indicate how he died, but it used wording that did not suggest he was killed as his predecessor was. Batafi, a Saudi national who was in his 40s, became Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula's leader in 2020. The US designated him a global terrorist in 2018 and placed a $5 million bounty on his head. In the video posted on the group's outlets on social media, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, an official read out a statement that offered no details about Batafi's death. A passenger has described the moment people hit the roof of a plane travelling from Australia to New Zealand during what was described as a mid-air technical event. Brian Jokart said a number of people suffered head injuries after the LATAM Airlines jet dropped unexpectedly, throwing some out of their seats. 50 were hurt and 12 were taken to hospital on landing in Auckland. Emergency services said one was in a serious condition. In total, New Zealand St. John's Ambulance Service said it had assessed and treated approximately 50 patients who had been travelling on the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, which had taken off from Sydney. To end this bulletin of world news, the headlines again. Hungary PM Orban says Trump will not give a penny to Ukraine. Al-Qaeda's Yemen branch announces death of its leader. 50 hurt as New Zealand-bound flight hit by technical issue. That ends this bulletin of world news.
Development news.
The Ministry of Agriculture and Plantation Industries has started a program to provide air rifles to farmers to prevent crop damage caused by animals. The research conducted by the Hector Kobiakadwe Agricultural Research and Training Institute has confirmed that 30 to 40% of the crops are currently being damaged by toque monkeys, giant squirrels and peacocks. Although the Ministry of Agriculture and Plantation Industries has requested the animal-friendly associations to suggest alternative paths to prevent damage from wild animals, so far not a single positive alternative has been presented.
Moving on with sports news.
Rugby first. Sydney Roosters prop Spencer Leniu has been suspended for 8 weeks for racially abusing the Brisbane Broncos' Ezra Mam. Leniu, 23, admitted calling Mam, who is Indigenous Australian, an offensive term during a game, but denied intending it to be a racial slur. A National Rugby League judiciary panel ruled that Leniu used the word with racial intentions. It said his remorse was genuine, but a lengthy ban was needed to send a strong deterrent. New Zealand-born Leniu, who was raised in Sydney and represents Samoa, apologized to Mam earlier in the hearing. Liverpool forward Mohamed Saleh has been left out of Egypt's squad for a friendly tournament later this month. Salah had made just 2 substitute appearances for the Reds since the 1st of January as he suffered a hamstring injury at the African Cup of Nations followed by muscle fatigue. Liverpool has asked for the 31-year-old to miss the tournament in the UAE. And although he was initially selected by Egypt, Salah has not been named in their final 25-man squad. That was sports news.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
A 2-megawatt ground mount solar project in Batticaloa was opened this morning. Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Wijesekara, in a post on X, said that the project under the 90-megawatt CEB tendering process was constructed and commissioned by Back Bay Solar Private Limited, and that was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
On to economic news. India has signed a free trade agreement with a group of 4 European countries that are not members of the European Union. The deal with the European Trade Association will see investments in India of $100 billion, the country's trade minister says. The EFTA is made up of Norway, Switzerland, Iceland and Liechtenstein. The announcement comes as the UK and India have been holding negotiations over an FTA for the last 2 years. That was economic news.
Weather report.
And finally, we take a look at the weather report. Showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the Colombo, Kalutara, Ratnapura, Galle and Matara districts in the evening or at night. A few showers are likely in the Ampara and Batticaloa districts during the morning. Mainly fair weather will prevail in the other areas of the island. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the western Sabaragama and Uva provinces and in the Galle and Matara districts during the morning hours. To end tonight's news broadcast, we take a look at the headlines again. Ramadan fasting in Sri Lanka will commence tomorrow. The President facilitates open dialogue with opposition on IMF proposals. The Prime Minister has officially awarded the 5 smart classrooms donated by Korea to 5 schools today. The State Minister of Finance denied the allegations made by some parties, saying that the country has imported vegetables worth 19,850 million rupees. The Minister of Finance has granted approval to deploy 4,500 multitask development officers to aid elephant fence conservation efforts. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena says the first ever service minute will be introduced for the Sri Lanka Transport Board. Heat index expected at caution level in foreign news. Hungary PM Oben says Trump will not give a penny to Ukraine. That ends tonight's news broadcast. The time reads 3 minutes past 9 o'clock. This is Radio Sri Lanka.